entrepreneurship, it is very similar to taking a cold shower and and extreme hot cold, right? That's basically what it is, right? You're putting your mind through that discomfort every single day. And so I see a lot of metaphors with that too.
For sure.
This episode is brought to you by Big Storage Ventures. We are now inviting you to team up and partner alongside us. We bring our experience hunting storage deals and maximizing the self-storage asset to provide our partners with cash flow, tax benefits, and appreciation, all in one recession-resistant asset. Leverage our sister company, Big Ben's moving service, to fill your facility and give you an edge over the competition. Reach out to bigstorageventures@gmail.com or DM Big Storage Ventures on Instagram to team up.
Welcome back to the Beyond Net Worth podcast. We're really excited for today's episode. We have two very special guests, Lauren Gottfredson and Madi Webster.
Yeah, today we bring on our wives, and they have a wealth of knowledge. They have things to teach us about work-life balance, hustling, scaling businesses, making sacrifices. And honestly, we couldn't be anywhere without them. So we're super glad we got to have them on.
For sure. We had a little bit of feedback that they wanted to hear a little bit more about Ben and I and our story. So we give a little bit of update in that too. So listen on it and you'll get that.
Hope you enjoy it.
I have just seen a lot of people that come into the clinics and they are in horrible health. They're in wheelchairs at 50, 60 years old, and they're not able to tie their shoes anymore. Their spouse is having to take care of them in ways that they didn't think they'd have to at that age. And I've just seen that very prevalently in hospital and clinic that I worked at, and it cemented it for me that I want to do the best I can to have a healthy life, but I noticed trends that people had that came in, and huge part of it was diet. And a lot of people, I worked in a pain clinic, and so people would come in to get treatment, but they'd come in with their this isn't to make anyone feel bad, but they'd come in with their...
Why are you looking at me like that?
jugs of soda.
Oh, she said it. Oh, she looked right across at you and said, they come in with their
I'm like, come
soda.
in with what, Lauren?
That's only one thing that I noticed that they had, but it's a sign, and I know Maddie is not. That's like her one weakness.
Easy, so it's fine.
But I know that in their life, they were, there's other things in their diet. You can obviously tell from the way that, that they were living, and it just wasn't healthy. You could tell they didn't exercise. They didn't, and I knew this because I had their charts as well. But so anyways, it kind of put the fear in me that I was like, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to have that. So,
yeah. Why did you get into the medical field to begin with? Do you know why?
Yes, it's a great question.
And when did you?
From a very young age, actually, because my dad is a chiropractor. So I just was always around health and healthcare, and that's, chiropractic's more holistic healthcare. So I naturally leaned and loved that side of medicine. And then when I was younger, in like middle school even, I was like, I want to be a nurse. I want to be a neonatal nurse. And so that's what I thought I wanted to do. And then, I took some courses and prereqs and was going to school for that. And then, I loved the patient care aspect of healthcare as well. I loved helping people. And so that was really intriguing to me. But the farther along I got in it, I didn't feel like nursing was right. And so, I explored other healthcare options, and that's when I latched onto radiography, and I became an x-ray tech, really, in the end. So, but yeah,
that's
just,
so cool.
I guess to answer the question, just health and being healthy. And I've always just loved, that. And then helping people,
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that makes a lot of sense with the cookies too. So how did when did you make your first cookie? Why did you want to start Buff Bakery?
Yeah, this is probably going to be a long answer.
Should be. It's long form.
So because of my,
Your desire for health
yes,
and anti-MSG.
right. I go, yeah, Ben knows. I go down rabbit holes with ingredients and reading all sorts of different studies, everything I can find about ingredients and artificial sweeteners, chemical sweeteners. And I did research papers in college on it because it interested me so much. But because of that, I'm a label reader when I go to stores, and I would find when I went to even health food stores, I was shocked at what they were putting in healthy food. And I was like,
Those were air quotes, if you're listening.
yes, air quotes on healthy food. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is not like, they're saying this is good and it's not. And I don't want to buy it. And so I obviously love snacking. I love food. I'm a foodie. We're a foodie. We're foodies.
We're one with the foodie.
We're one with the food. And I just was, I love my snacks. And so I was like, well, if I can't find anything, I'm just going to make my own. So I started altering recipes like, well, I don't even know, when I was like 12. Mm-hmm. Like my mom is an amazing cook. And so I just learned things from her and watching her, and then just, picking up things. I would see recipes and I'd be like, oh, I wonder how I could make that healthy. And, obviously Pinteresting is the best. And so I would Pinterest all sorts of recipes and just tweak them. And I would say I made my first protein cookie, though, probably when I was in college. It was after I graduated, but I was counting macros. I was trying to be really strict with, my health and my fitness. And so I made these macro cookies where
They were for you.
They were for me, yeah. I fine-tuned the calories, carbs, and protein to fit in my macro plan, so I could feel good about eating a snack and feel good about the ingredients. And so...
And could have a cookie.
Yeah. And so, yeah. I kind of started from there. I was making cookies, and I had a lot of people I worked with and just friends that they're like, oh, like, can I try that? Like, oh, it's really good. Like, where'd you get that? Or how'd you make that? And I'm like, oh yeah, like you can have one. And they're like, oh my gosh, like you could totally sell these. Like, this is a cool idea. And so after so many people telling me that, I was like, yeah, why don't I try and sell them? So
talk about maybe some of the challenges because when you first conceived these protein cookies, it was strictly for you. Like you wanted to have a better alternative.
Yeah. So
what were some of the tricky parts from taking it to like a hobby or something for you into a business?
Well, one of the tricky parts was the fact that I had no business knowledge whatsoever. I obviously studied the healthcare field. I knew medicine, I knew medical terminology, but I did not know business. And so I go to the gym, and the gym I was going to at the time, I kind of knew the lady in the health food store, and I talked to her, and she allowed me to start selling some of my cookies out of there. And I was like, oh, sweet. Like my first business deal. And I was like, this is cool. And, I was taking her a couple a week, and it was kind of crazy at that time. I was still working X-ray full time. So I was baking cookies after my x-ray job and my radiology job, and I was baking till 12 at night, trying to package them and get them ready for her. And anyways, basically that deal was great, but one thing I learned was, I didn't have my numbers in line. That's why I say I didn't have a business mind, because I didn't have my numbers straight. And she was taking half the profit, and I was not even making half. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but
Half the revenue. So like you sold a cookie for how much to her?
So
how much were they retailing?
So she was retailing them at $4,
and then you
I
got
was
split 2-2.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good deal for her. Huh?
Exactly.
And I packaged them. I did everything. She just sold them. And she did not think that they would sell for more. She's like, you need to lower your ingredients cost, because I don't think, I can't raise the prices on these. And I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to do that? So
Well,
anyways, yeah.
These are super common obstacles when you're starting a business, right? So the first one is basically knowing your worth and figuring out pricing, right? And I think that's not uncommon. I know, some of my first move jobs, it's like, yeah, if you'll give me $50, I'll move your house. It's like, look back, that took me 10 hours. What just happened, right?
Instant regret.
So that is super common when someone's willing to pay you for something, and you're like, okay, yeah, let's go for it.
Right.
And then I think it's good, because what it does is it does proof of concept, meaning that
That's important.
Yeah, proof of concept, super key, because that's basically, validating your business plan, right? And it starts to get the wheels turning, get your name out there, right? A lot of people will eat some upfront costs just to get out there. And so I think that's a really common thing that everyone's going to have to come across at some point. And I think it's really cool for me to be, because about this same time was
when you met.
Well,
you were trying to win her heart back.
Yeah, this is when I
He
was
was in the gym parking lot. Lauren, take me back. I love you.
It was a different gym, but yes.
Oh, I know all the details.
She's always hanging at the gym.
That's
Yeah, I
true.
basically proposed to her at a gym.
Proof of concept.
Yeah. And so I was observing this the whole, at the time, and it's cool to see her take a step, and that was her one client, right? That gym was her one client. And, it was cool to see her pick up a few more clients at a higher price point and actually start to make some money. And, as emotional as it is, let go of that first client. And no, we didn't want to let go of them, but we had no choice, right? They were upside down. And so when Lauren, just seeing her take those steps, it was a proud moment. That was really fun. And it's really fun to see the journey ever since too.
Yeah, that wasn't the end. I got a few more clients or customers, and with each one, it was a matter of figuring out my worth, because I raised the price a little bit, and then it still wasn't enough, and then I had raised the price a little bit more, and I'm like, I'm still not pricing this right. It's like the value of this with, I guess, just to give an idea of the cookie, it's super high protein, and protein's expensive and technical to bake with. It's time consuming, and packaging costs, and just the natural sweeteners that I use, they're not cheap like sucralose or anything like that. So they're more expensive, and just the quality, it's, you pay for a price.
She hasn't been willing to sacrifice the quality either.
Well, I was I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but when you're presented that scenario, when she says you need cheaper ingredients, we can't sell this for this much. That's probably happens to so many people all the time. And we talk about the healthy food that's out there that's supposed to be healthy, but they might have to throw in things here and things there that's where the, business kind of gets in the way of some of those things, because people, when you start looking at numbers and you start looking at that, then some things just make more sense. And if people aren't willing, like if people don't care, then people make those decisions when they're making products and the ingredients they're going to put in there and what people are caring about right now, what they're not. And so that's tough. I mean, really tough on the business side to not fall down that, because you could sacrifice quality in your ingredients and maybe be able to sell more and be able to scale and make more profit and make it more worth it. So it's not easy.
No, it's not. And it's tempting. Like, there's a lot of people that do that. They'll compromise and for the price. And I just, in my heart, the things I know, I have to stay loyal to that. And I feel like if people understand and they know what quality is, they know that it's worth the price. And so with my cookies, that's what I love about doing, is that I feel like I'm still helping people. It's that aspect of taking care that I loved in the healthcare field. And it's like, that's what I was, I'm passionate about fitness and food, but I'm also passionate about, like, not only my health, but other people's health. And so that's why when somebody brings up in a conversation, like MSG, or they pull out a bag of Doritos, and I'm like, do you know what's in that? And I feel like I'm obligated to tell them that this is what this will do to you. Yeah. And a lot of people just are like, oh, you're, whatever. It's not a big deal. But I'm just like, that's just one thing you're doing. And what else isn't a big deal? And what else isn't a big deal? And then all these little big, not big deals stack up on each other in your diet throughout the day. And I mean, you don't know what protein bar you ate that had artificial sweetener. You don't know what pop you drank that had artificial sweetener. You don't know. So that's where my mind goes. I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of a tangent.
It's a passion.
Yeah.
Right? And it's something that another piece of the journey I wanted to ask you about was when you made the decision to step away from your radiology, which was something that you made a lot of sacrifices for that, but you found that the business was your passion. What were some of the pros and cons, and what was it like letting your license lapse that you'd worked so hard for?
Yeah, I
was really hoping I was going to bring this up myself because obviously everyone heard Ben, talk about you quitting your job and convincing you quitting your job. If you want to clear the air with anything, please, now's the time.
Kallan, are you mad that I got you to quit your job too?
Right? I know. I honestly... It was a process. I mean, that was at the time that Ben and I were getting married, and he was asking me, what do you love? What do you want to do? And it's like, if you love X-ray and radiology, then stick with that. And, I was already at that point on the course of entrepreneurship because I read a really awesome book that changed my thinking, which is called Mindset by Carol Dweck, and I highly, highly recommend that book. She talks about a fixed mindset and a growth mindset in all aspects of life, in relationships, family, business, and so it's really applicable. And reading her book, I just was like, I want to shoot for the stars. Like, I can't fail, I can't make mistakes. And there's not a mistake. It's just me making this work in harder ways and then finding better ways. It's me taking a couple steps back and then launching forward, and me learning from these errors. It's not thinking about mistakes necessarily as mistakes. It's just learning curves, basically. And so I started to think like that, and the more I realized the kind of life I wanted, working in X-ray, I had a really hard time getting time off, and I don't think I realized that in my education process. I didn't realize for some reason how hard schedule and freedom would be in a hospital setting. I didn't realize how much I valued my freedom and my time. And I was working 9 to 5s
and night shifts.
And that's true. I had taken on 2 X-ray jobs while I was forming the bakery business and trying to get that running because that was my capital for everything. So I got a second job to try and manage everything. And yeah, I was feeling pretty worked. I was like, oh man, I just wish I could sometimes not have to wake up at a certain time. It's just like, that would be great. I wish I didn't have to ask someone for time off. I could just schedule my time off. Things like that started to sound really, really appealing. And just not answering to anyone. Another resource that really helped my, my process into business was the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I talked to Ben about that too, and just his concepts of basically not I'm drawing a blank. What is his concepts?
Well, he specifically is talking about he puts people into 4 quadrants, right? And he basically explains that you have the employees, but then you have business owners, and then you have the investors. And business owners and investors,
yes,
they're leveraging things like debt and real estate. And
that's right. That's what I was gonna say. Is he talks about being the last one paid. As an employee, you're the last one to be paid on your payroll, and so that kind of hit me hard. I'm like, oh my goodness, like if I ever want to grow, I have to go back to school. I have to relearn. I have to pay, and I have to pay more. And so I just, everything about the cookie business and me transitioning into that just really started to align with what I wanted to do, essentially. So
have you had any regrets?
No. I know. You think that you would because going to school and getting my radiology degree was probably one of the hardest things that I did. I worked really hard for that, and I don't consider myself super intelligent.
I do.
I have to, with school, I've always just been a hard worker. I've had to work for my grades. Learning didn't come naturally for me. Math doesn't come naturally for me. I stayed after school many, many hours to try and get good grades, that kind of thing. And so,
she's extremely smart, but she's even more of a hard worker. Like everyone in Lauren's family has this hard work gene, but Lauren especially, she can put her head down and really work. And you asked a question about, do you regret it, right? And I don't think she has regretted it for a minute. But we had this conversation a couple weeks ago that was kind of interesting, and basically just talked about how when you're, if she was to stick with X-ray, for example, like it overall, the process is harder. But as a business owner, she has had harder days than she ever had as an X-ray tech.
Right.
And I mean, of course, she's had all these other benefits, but she has had to, her hardest days in the cookie business are 10 times, 100 times harder than anything she ever had to deal with, because you're basically always, as a business owner, you're always paying the price, doing something someone else won't do, like working with the health department, working with training and hiring. There's really difficult things that she's had to pay the price to do so she can have that freedom. And it's not easy, and it's definitely
unpredictable.
Yeah, very unpredictable, right?
Well, that's worth noting. I mean, because I've just started with you, and so I've been able to see, like, at your house, a little bit since I've been there the last couple of days, and seeing some of the things you go through as a business owner, and just a little glimpse, right? And what goes through my mind is there are so many people who would not give, like, they wouldn't want that. There's tons of people out there that wouldn't want the stress that you deal with, the hard things you're gonna deal with. Everyone wants the good stuff, right? The frosting, but all the stuff that you're doing in the side that people don't even have the stress tolerances to do. And I've been thinking hard about this because this new venture, we're going on, partnering up with is very entrepreneurial. It's higher risk, much higher risk, even though we've been able to mitigate it the best we can, at least for my tolerance in our agreement, in our partnership agreement.
Yeah.
But still, like, I look back and I think, well, there was a reason I went into, like, not into accounting, but like there's stability, and the safety and security is a huge deal for a lot of people. And that's where, for some, having the security and the stability is exactly what they need, and no more, no more, no less. Like, so it's worth being said on being an entrepreneur and getting after it and making those sacrifices and having to have those hard days now. I mean, in radiology, yeah, like, it'll be tough scheduling and stuff, but you're passionate about the healthcare field, and you've talked so much about that, and that is interesting to me because when you were describing leading up to the cookie business, it was like you really cared about almost what you were doing with the patients and clients, what you're seeing, the people I'm sure. There's got to be days that's hard, but you've been able to do something that is still having an impact and helping people at least. But yeah, it's just to do that trade-off to do entrepreneurship is no joke. I mean, it's hard.
Well, I see a lot of similarities. I mean, like, even when we were married and Lauren had already, quit her job for a long time, and I don't know if it was 6 months or a year, but it was coming up where she's like, okay, like, I'm thinking about just getting my continuing education just because I don't want to let go of this so much. And I see that in you too, right? Because you paid this serious price to get all your accounting education and going through similar stuff, right? Where you're still really close to getting your CPA and stuff like that. And it's like, well, is that going to come in handy? Stuff, all that stuff's like going through your mind, because that's how we're kind of wired, is we have to pay these educational prices to advance when there's other ways too.
Right.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. I think it could be worth it. Like, I still think it could have been worth it for me to get my continuing education. But
knowledge is power, I feel like.
Right. Yeah. I do love learning, and staying up on that probably wouldn't be a bad idea, but I found that it was really hard to juggle two balls.
Yeah, it's hard enough.
And so, like, even at a
not
point,
even taking that in a dirty way, Benjamin.
What do you
Really?
think of it?
What? The bloopers. You juggle 3 balls. Anyone can juggle 2 balls. Unless
3
they're
balls.
mine.
Oh my gosh. Anyway,
It's hard enough to run a business without having a side job.
Yeah,
It consumes any time that you have to dedicate to work. You never finish your to-do list.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in you, right? So, I mean, I don't know that you've ever felt caught up on your business. And not that that's a bad thing. That's normal, because a growing business should always have things to do.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you're caught up, you should pause and think, okay, so I'm really perfect? No. Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a personality thing too. You have to be able to, get the most important things done, everything important for that day. And then you have to be willing to table it. And sometimes for perfectionists, that's really hard, because you're thinking, oh, I have this, and this left to do. Right?
Yeah. I still to this day think of a quote that my basketball coach would always tell us, and it was, be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I don't know why that really always has stayed with me, but I think, even in business, it's like, if you're not comfortable being uncomfortable, you're not growing. And
And that breaks the growth mindset that you
Right.
talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
The comfort zone is where no growth happens. So-
right. And I think, some people out there, they are, their personality may not be one to love being uncomfortable, and that's fine. It's not a bad place to be, but those people that can handle being uncomfortable, I think, are the ones that really succeed at business, in my opinion.
I listened to Zuckerberg's interview with Joe Rogan, and he just talks about the stress. I mean, can you imagine this? The stress of owning a company like that, like a
I was just gonna say, I have so
multi-billion
many things that are like about to come out, and then I just don't say
Let
them.
it out.
about
Tell
I was
us.
gonna say
Yeah.
about the FBI coming after you for selling everybody's information.
That must be really stressful for you, Mr. Zuckerberg.
Guess who brought
For
that on
spying
the
on
show?
all of us, stealing our info, blocking our anti-vax mandates.
I wasn't gonna go there, but he went.
How
there,
come
so.
when I post conspiracies, you block it?
you talked about all that.
We don't pity Zuck, Kallan.
I'm not saying
Us?
Dare you even listen to that episode?
Oh, you guys make great points. Make great points. I can't even defend myself right now. You just kind of pinned me as that. No, I mean,
It's okay, babe.
it's just crazy. I was thinking earlier today, like I mean, this is just me. Like, I would not want the billions, that he has to have to deal with that stress. Like, mine's a little bit less, and that might sound crazy. Maybe I'll take it back. But I'm like, it's like, there are people, I'm saying there are people out there, it's not worth it. The stress is just too much, and they're not going to want to be that person. Like, a lot of people don't want to do what it takes, right, to get to certain levels. That's true with everything, even with knowledge. We were having this conversation earlier about the Huberman lab, because he's a neuroscientist that he's a Stanford professor, and he has a podcast. It's incredible. Mm-hmm. And he talks about all of these things, like science, like facts have proven to improve your life, like in health, your cognitive abilities, neuroplasticity, motivation, hormone balance, all these things. And he's like, these are white-paged, double-blind studies. These are good studies that are saying, if you do this, you'll have this result. Like, you'll have more, dopamine, more, what is it, epinephrine, norepinephrine, which is basically just adrenaline. Like, he's just saying all these things will do better if you do this one simple thing. But because it's uncomfortable to do that little teeny thing that's going to really benefit your life, there's so many people, the majority of people are probably aren't going to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that applies. So there's two. He talks a lot about volunteer cold and heat exposure. So basically, like, cold shower, cold plunge, or like sauna, like heat. And then the other one that he raves, like every episode, he'll probably talk about these three things. Like, he'll talk about cold exposure, heat, deliberate, and then sunlight.
Okay.
Every morning. And there's a certain, like, he explains the science behind everything. And when you understand the why, like the background, it makes a lot more sense. But, sunlight's one of them. Getting a little bit of sunlight, like, first thing you wake up, and it's all broken down, but it's like the cold, like deliberately cold exposure or heat. People aren't gonna do that. That's discomfort. Have you ever, like, this morning, what was the last thing on your mind was taking a cold shower? I'm sure it was freezing this morning.
Yeah.
And warm showers are nice. People want that comfort. No one's gonna want to do the discomfort, even if there's proven studies that it's gonna improve this, or you're gonna be better off.
Well, and I think a little bit of education is required, right? Because I know of people who understand the benefits of the cold and hot, and that's why they do it, and I'm just not educated on it, right?
Yeah,
but
knowing the why is important.
Right. Yeah. So I need to be educated more on that, and if I have the knowledge, then I'll do it. But we have kind of a different knowledge about entrepreneurship. It is very similar to taking a cold shower and and extreme hot cold, right? That's basically what it is, right? You're putting your mind through that discomfort every single day. And so I see a lot of metaphors with that too.
For sure. No, there are.
And I think it comes back to your balance. And like you said, you might not trade your sanity to live Zuck's life for his money, but
I could never do that to the American people.
everyone's gotta come to it. And there's a limit of, there's a limit too. You could push even further, but that's a big part of, the Beyond Net Worth, tribe is the work-life balance, right? There is a point where if that stress pushes you over the edge, it's rough on your family, then we want to work on that work-life balance a little bit more too.
I'm glad you mentioned that. We were talking about, Brecken the other day, because in his story, even though he had the nice sabbatical that he took to Europe with his wife, and he had a partner that he could sell to, and it worked out really nice for him. If you look at that, you're like, oh, it was a no-brainer. But the decision to do that, we can't discount how hard that probably was.
Yeah.
And because you're in a successful business, it's your baby. You put so much into it, so much time. You've worked really, really hard. And now he's at this point where the stress, and you can go back and listen to the episode if you haven't, the stress got to the point where it's affecting his family, his wife. He's bringing that stress at home. It's too much. Putting out the fires every day. I mean, Ben's a fireman. He knows about that. But putting those fires out every day started to spill over, to his personal life. And so he had to make a hard decision to walk away. And now he's in other ventures that are going to be better for his
work-life balance.
His work-life balance. So, that's why I'm glad you mentioned that about the podcast, because sometimes, that might be the case. Sometimes you might need to do something that's best for your family and best for yourself, so that you can,
Absolutely. Maddie, I want to jump in a little bit about your business, and specifically, I mean, if you don't know Maddie, she's kind of like the nail goddess. She's probably the best to get your nails done in the whole state of Utah or Nevada. She's a Nevada girl, so
I can approve.
Yeah, show them, hon. This is her recent work.
If they drive to Utah, because she's only licensed in Utah.
Okay.
If you're from Nevada, you can drive across the border.
Thanks for the. I think we really need that legal disclaimer. But I want to talk to you too, because one thing I've really admired in Lauren is in the last 6 weeks seeing her be a mom and balance business and mom. And you're kind of an. I don't want to make you blush, but you're kind of an expert at that, in my opinion, because I know your two kids, Boston and Evie. And as their honorary godfather, I always watch over them. And honestly, like seeing you be their mom and also rock your business, but always put them first is really admirable to me.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so I want you to speak a little bit on scaling a business, then scaling back. And then I've seen you scale up, scale back, and then scale up again. And what are some challenges you face with that, and how do you make sure you're always putting everything in the right order?
So I feel like when before I had kids, I started at a salon in town, and Kallan and I, when we were married for 6 months, we moved out to Washington, D.C. for 4 months to do internships, and it was so fun. We came back, and we took a semester off of school to do that. And I was like, there's so much like stigma around like taking a semester off that like you'll never go back and you'll never finish. And so I was like, okay, we're going to take a semester off and go do this. And then I was like, I've always had a passion for doing nails. It was always a hobby. I was always the one at sleepovers that was like doing everybody's nails. And I had this like the two designs that were like my go-to was like the zebra stripes, and then like just like a traditional like flower that they do at like, your Chinese shops. But I would like I would break a Q-tip in half, and I would use that like as the dots, and then I would use a toothpick and like bring them in. But I didn't really have like any of the dotting tools and stuff yet. So I just like used what I had. So it was a big hobby of mine, and I always was scared that if I turned it into a job that I wouldn't like it anymore. And I was like, I really love doing this because it's like my creative outlet. I love being able to like talk with friends and like do it and just bond that way. And so I was like, do I want to go to nail school? We were going to be heading back in like a month, and I was like, do I want to go to nail school? Like would kind of be the perfect time to do it. Like just take another semester off and do nails, go to school. But then I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. Like I would love to do this. And so we barely made anything when we were in Washington, D.C. Like I think Kallan made like $500 a month.
We were the lucky ones because
Yeah.
normally internships in
Yeah.
DC, they're non-paid.
He made
Right,
like
that's true.
$500 a month. That was like before taxes. And then maybe it was $1,000 a month.
No, it was
$500.
$500.
$500 a month before
Super glamorous.
taxes. And mine was like $250 before taxes. Like we calculated it out. I made like $3 an hour. And I was just
Where
like,
did-
So Maddie, she interned
I ended
for,
up interning
But
too.
was the housing included in the internship?
No,
Oh.
we used savings.
Yeah, we
Oh
looked off
my.
savings. Well, let me back up. We actually, Henry Walton, thank you. Henry
Shout
Walton
out to
got
Henry
us, he got us like $1,200 or something
As a stipend to help
from the
offset.
school
Yeah,
as a stipend
yeah.
Okay.
for housing, but we were paying $1,300 a month.
For a basement apartment.
Yeah,
Didn't
a
have a stove, didn't have an oven, didn't even have a full-size fridge or a freezer. It was a mini fridge, and they had a hot plate. And there was only one pan that you could put on that it was like the one that came with it, which was just like a medium-sized like pan you would cook eggs in. So we shipped our Instant Pot. We paid like $50 to ship our Instant Pot out there, so I had like some sort
So we
of
could cook.
something to cook.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, so
We would put we'd go
I
to
would
Trader
stack,
Joe's.
Well, I would stack the pans up so I could like try to boil noodles. Like I would
Wow.
put the one it came with, then I would put
I
another one that was
forgot about
taller
that.
to try to like transfer the heat through the pans to like boil.
That's funny. I
Oh
forgot
my
about that because she
gosh.
had she had more than one pan in the little, it was a studio. So it was like not even a kitchenette. It was a sink. It was
I
kind
know
of,
all this.
Oh, it was
And-
it was so fun.
but the
We
plate,
always
so
talk
it was
about
like, it was like one of those induction
yeah,
plates where
induction hot
you
plates.
you plug it in, but there's only like, it's like a magnetic. So there's only one thing that will actually
turn it on.
have heat because it has to have like the certain pan of heat. So we'd put that pan on, and then we would put like the other pan on top of that pan so that we could boil water.
It would never boil. It would get really hot. So we didn't eat pasta for like 4 months because it was just like
This is
not
the last
good.
I was mentioning the Trader Joe's. We'd go to Trader Joe's in like the frozen section. We'd like you could get like two things, and if we put it on the back of the mini fridge,
It would freeze.
it would stay frozen.
It would freeze that side that was touching. Anyways.
Wow,
Like, I
the
was
true rags to riches
such-
story.
Such a
Wouldn't trade it to be in Zuck's place for anything.
Dude, that being in DC, interning for the congressman, and she was for Congressman in California. I was
How long had you been married?
6 months.
6 months.
Is your honeymoon?
Oh, it was so fun.
Yeah.
Except for the gunshots and like me almost like getting raped like 6 times at the subway station, but it's fine.
Oh my
Just
gosh.
kidding. I never almost got raped, and that's actually really not funny. But it was really scary.
Shout out Jessica Smith. We'll have to
It
cut
was-
that out and send her a special clip.
It was really
Yeah.
scary.
We
where
were
we
not
lived
on
was
a-
sketch ballsy.
Yeah, I mean we live with a lawyer, and it was a newly renovated place, but it was super close to the Capitol. But if you know, there's the metro, actual transportation system, and the Green Line. It's known to be a little sketchier than others. So we were, south side off the Green Line. That's what we took to work every day, to the Capitol every day. But
I'll say this last story, and then I'll go back to about how this has
Yeah.
anything to do with nails.
on your business.
So we're so excited. We're like, yes, like we have our suitcases. Like my mom's dropping us off at your mom drops off at the airport. No, my mom drops off at the airport. Your mom drops off at my mom's house. We stayed the night in Mesquite, and then my mom took us to the airport in Vegas. And we're just like so excited for this new adventure.
Oh,
And
I know
when
what
we
you're
fly, red eye flight, we get there in DC in the morning, and we get an Uber. We load our stuff up when we're driving, and we're just like taking it all in, and like we're going through this like nice neighborhood, and we're like, oh my gosh, like this is so cute, like we're so excited. And then all of a sudden it's like sketchier. And I'm like, please tell me that we're just gonna drive through this, and then we'll like go to another nice neighborhood. And he pulled over, and he's like, okay, like we're here. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I'm actually scared. Like, so it counts like, and his face too was like,
We didn't do
He's
our
like-
research.
it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. it's going to be fine. Like, let's just, like, go in and check it out. Like, if it's really bad, like, we don't have to stay here. Like, we can leave. Like, we're not going to be, like, put our safety at risk. Like, it's fine. But I could tell in his eyes, he was like, oh, no. So we, like, go in, and it's, like, it was nice in there, like, because it was renovated. And Callan's like, I literally was just, like, he's like, let's just, like, go out and walk around the neighborhood and, like, just take it in and stuff. So we were there for, like, maybe 10 or 15 minutes at, like, the place we were going to live at. And we're like, let's go on a walk. So we're walking around, like, the neighborhood, and this car, like, parks, and they get out, and they, like, start to go up the stairs into one of the other houses, and they're like, are you guys, like, looking for something? And we're like, no, like, we're just walking around, like, we just moved here, whatever. And he's like, you're not supposed to be, like, walking around on the street.
He said it's not safe. You don't walk on the streets.
Like, you shouldn't be walking around out here. And it was, like, middle of the day. And we're like, okay, like, we're walking back. I literally cried myself to sleep that night. I was so scared. And I don't know if this is because I grew up in, like, Muskegon. It's, like, small, but I don't feel like, I mean, it's definitely different than, like, growing up in, like, I don't know, like Cali
She's downplaying
or, like,
it.
somewhere.
I mean, we just got married, you know, and you have responsibility. And, like, that first night we get there, and I'm like, this is going to be a fun adventure. It's gonna be so much fun. First time we get there, she's literally cried herself to sleep, just bawling.
I was so scared. And it ended up being such a fun experience. But, like, I had a fake iPhone that was a taser. I literally had that. I had pepper spray. We didn't have any, like, guns out there because
it's
obviously our guns
DC.
were in and anyways, you can't fly with them and all that stuff. And so back to nails, that was really scary. And I was like, okay, after 3 months we were kind of starting to feel like we were really enjoying it and stuff, and I was like, well, I don't want to, like, leave, kind of like, it's kind of fun, but I was like, we got to go back. And so with the living situation and the money, like, we didn't have a lot of money in our savings, and nail school was like $2,300. And I was like, this is kind of a lot of money, like, for us when we're not even making anything right now. But I was just like, I just have a feeling that this is going to be worth it, and I'm going to love to do it. And I didn't really even think of it as like, oh, I get to be my own, like, everything that comes with it. I get to be my own boss, and I get to, you know, when I have kids, hopefully someday, you know, I can work and do that. Like, I didn't really think about all that stuff. I just loved to do it, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. So we did nail school, and there was this one salon in town that's still here that I was like, this is the salon to be at. Like, I want to work here. And I was just like, I will work here. Like, I'm not going to go work at some sketchy place. Like, I know that if I get my foot in the door and I work at this place, like, I'm going to grow my business. I can work full time and do nails, and it's going to be amazing.
Awesome.
And so I remember calling them, and I was, like, so excited because I was going to be done with school in, like, a few weeks. And I was like, I'm ahead of the game. Like, I'm going to call them and be like, I'm going to be done in a few weeks. Like, I want to come in. I want to interview. And she was like, oh, sorry, like, we don't have any spots open, like, for nail techs right now. And I was just like, I was in the parking lot at the mall, and I literally started crying because I was just like, no, like, I have to work here. Like, you don't get it. Like, this is the place.
Yeah.
And so a few weeks later went by, and I ended up graduating from nail school and stuff, and I called them back again because I was like, I'm not gonna, like, take no for an answer. So I called them again, and I'm like, hey, I've called before, but, like, I would really love to, like, work here and stuff. And they're like, oh, we actually just had a girl that left and stuff. And I was just like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like, tell me what time. I will literally be there. And so they were like, okay, we want to do a working interview. And so I brought in the girl I went to nail school with, Shelby. We're still really good friends. She lives up in Beaver, but I was like, come, like, be my model. And they wanted me to do one hand with gel and one hand with acrylic. So I did that. And I just remember, like, we were sitting there, and, like, we just had, like, a little bit of product, you know, because we just got out of school. We weren't really making any money yet. And, like, the girls that were working next to me, they would, like, open their drawers, and it was just, like, chock full of, like, colors of, like, the best lines. And I was just like, I have to work here. Like, holy smokes. So then they hired me, and I just felt like I had, like, made it. Like, it was so fun. The environment was awesome. Like, no drama. There was 2 other full-time nail techs that just, like, took me under their wing. And I told them, because I was telling Kallan, they were just like, you can borrow my stuff. Like, I don't care. Like, if your client wants a color and you don't have it, like, I don't mind. But I told Kallan, I'm like, I just don't feel good about that. Like, I can't just be using their product and, like, not paying them. And so he's like, just offer them to, like, pay him, like, a monthly rate or something. So he's like, you can just use their stuff and, like, you don't feel bad. And I told them so many times, and they're like, no, seriously, like, we know what it's like to be starting off, and, like, we don't
That's
care.
cool.
Like, we want to help you out. And I was like, okay, but, like, if it ever gets to a point where you just feel like I'm using them too much or it bothers you, like, please just tell me, like, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. And they're like, it's seriously fine. So I was like, okay. So I felt like in that stage of, like, growing my nail business, you'll just take anybody that, like, walks in or calls because, you know, you're trying to grow your business. And holy crap, there were some people I was just like, some situations and things I was just like, oh my gosh, like, you really learn, one, to have thick skin, two, to deal with conflict and just, like, how to deal with that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's so uncomfortable, especially when you've never done it before. But, like, doing that, having thick skin, like, having to reply back to clients that are just, like, trying to push your limits of, like, taking advantage of you. And I felt like I would ask the other nail techs, and, like, I made a lot of good friends there, and I would ask them, I'd be like, I have this client, like, this is what's going on, like, what do I say, like, what do I text them back? And I just felt like everyone in the salon had such a positive mindset, and they really just, like, shaped me. I feel like there's so many things now that I feel like that I do, or my confidence that was really, like, built from them helping me through those, like, hard times.
That's cool you recognize that you have people to look back and think.
Yeah, I'll always cherish that part of my life. Like, just, you know, doing that was so special. But I feel like now my life's even better. Yeah. So I got pregnant with our first kiddo, Boston. He's 3 now. And I just felt like I gave myself a lot of room, like a lot of grace, because I'm like, I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know what my labor is going to be like. I don't know what newborn life is like. I've never went through before. So I was just like, I'm going to give myself, I think I did like 3 months. Yeah, I gave myself a lot of time because I'm just like, this is my priority and I don't know how it's going to be. And honestly, what is the rush?
Yeah.
And so, and financially, we just made it work, and I saved a lot of money. And so that happened, and we ended up, after he was like 2 months old, we ended up moving to Vegas. Kallan got a job down there, finished school and got a job down there. So I never went back to that salon. And it was kind of weird because I felt like I never like really got to say bye because I like never really went back. But we moved back we were in Vegas, and I was like, okay, I finished school. That was something I just always wanted to do. I was doing a cohort.
You got your bachelor's degree.
I got my bachelor's degree in communications with what's it called? Understudy? I should know this.
Undergrad.
Emphasis.
An emphasis in leadership and organization. It's been a while since I've talked about this. So when I was working full time, I would go to class Tuesdays from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. So, and it was great.
I remember that.
So I would just be like, okay, I'm done working on Tuesdays at 4, and I'm going to go home. I'm going to eat. I'm going to make some dinner or whatever, chill for a second, get ready for class, and I would go for 4 hours. And then after we had Boston too, I would do the same thing. And it was like, we lived in campus housing, so it was super close. And it was so doable for me because it was set up that way. I didn't really enjoy like the full-time school because I did that for a semester or two, and the time management and everything, like the way that it was set up for me, I was just like, how do people even like the stress of like always having the to-do list, even with school. I was just like, I don't like this. So the cohort was great for me. And then we moved to Vegas, and Boston was 2 months old, 3 months old, and I would drive on Tuesdays back to St. George, drop Boston off at my dad's house. He would watch him for 4 hours. I would get out at like 9:30 or 10, and I would drive back to Vegas, and I would do that every Tuesday. And then COVID hit and everything went online, and I was like, thank Jesus, like, I don't have to commute anymore.
To finish school.
Yeah.
So I only commuted for a little while, and I finished online. And honestly, Kallan and I walked together on his birthday last year. We graduated, we walked together across, and it was so cool. It was so cool. Like, just the best day. And I know that for some people, school is like, you don't I feel like if you have the opportunity to do entrepreneurship and stuff, and it makes sense when you haven't finished, then I totally get that. But for me, I was just like, I have full FAFSA. Why would I not go? And it's not that inconvenient to go on Tuesdays from 6 to 10. Like, I just want to go. And
Sure.
I don't know. I just felt like personally, not that I've been asked a lot, well, what job can you do at that? I'm like, it's not really about that for me. Like, it's not like, oh, I want to be like an event planner and like have to like communicate. Like, it's not really about that. It's more just like a personal like accomplishment.
Well, I think that's one thing that is probably most important about school, because school is a super controversial thing. Like, I would, depending on everyone's personal situation, talk them into school, or I've talked to a couple people out of school too. Yeah. But the biggest thing for you and for a lot of people is that sense of accomplishment. And I think, that you can push through something hard, because in life and in business, there's lots of hard things about, that line up with school, like a professor that just picks on you, or a concept you just can't get that you have to just suffer through a semester, right? And so I think from an employer standpoint, you look at someone and say, well, they can do at least something difficult because they finished school. Yeah. And
it does say a lot about those people you hire.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I couldn't just like spiel off like everything I learned from like communications 101 class, but like the growth I had as an individual through all those times, and the cohort was so fascinating because it was like, I was like 20 at the time, all the way up to like 50 years old. Like you just have like the wildest mix in there, and it was so fun. And people with so much life experience were leaning in on subjects and stuff, and I'm just like, wow, I've never thought about it like that, and I loved it. It was so fun. So I did that, finished school, and then
she discounts like how like big of a deal it was, and at least for us, because I mean, Maddie was working full time. She worked 40 hours a week. She booked a full schedule of clients. Remember. And then she would go to school at night, and she would do her classes and all that stuff. And she put us through. I was working as much as I could, but she helped me go to school to accomplish everything that I needed to accomplish. And again, she was making way more than me. Even she could have kept working and made more than me, even as a staff accountant in Vegas. That's just the game. But I'm really grateful for that. And says a lot about the sacrifice to have to leave that. Sometimes the decision to cut back on working, it's a personal decision. I'm not saying that's the right for everyone, especially as a mom, and that I'm 100%. Everyone's situations are different.
Well, everyone's going to have times in their life when it's the right thing to do to rebalance and either ramp down or ramp up.
Yeah. And again, with women, I admire, all women for all that they do, right? And especially Maddie. But it's like, it is a sacrifice, because you could, if you worked more, you could have more money. I mean, if she worked full time, and we could have.
It's like it's like, maybe this is like really worldly, but it's like to come to peace with the fact that could be like right at your fingertips, and you're choosing not to do that because something else is more important right now. Like my kids, these years are so limited and the time is so short. And I'm just like, money comes and goes. Like, just start making more money. We're fine.
Easy come, easy go with Daddy Kallan.
Make it come more.
But I felt like I don't know. I felt like I had Boston, and they laid him on my chest, and I was just like, I've never felt more whole. Like, I didn't know that this was missing. And so for me, I was just like, I don't know. My kids are my everything, but I love working and scaling back. And then I would drive from Vegas to the salon every 3 weeks and work a full Saturday. And Kallan would keep Boston and Vegas. And then I would get done working. I'd go to dinner with one of my best friends, and then I would drive home. And it was the longest day. And I started out by driving up on Saturday night, staying at either his parents' house or my friend's house, and then getting up and just like hitting it hard Saturday and seeing like 7 or 8 people, and then driving home, getting dinner, and then driving home at like 11. And then I was like, I don't want to drive up on Friday night. Like, I just will drive up Saturday morning. So then I would get up at like 4 a.m., drive to St. George, watch the sunrise, work all day, go to dinner, and drive home and get home at like midnight.
Yeah.
And
Not a single ounce of soda or caffeine.
Oh, it was flowing. But I also loved that. And it was so great because Kallan was like, wow, I have such a deeper appreciation for what you do. Because he's like, when you're home, like, you're mama bear. So, like, I just come to you and say, like, how does this work? Or, like, how do I do this for Boston? Or, like, whatever. But he's like, when you're gone, like, I am his lifeline. Like, he depends on me. And he's like, I love kind of feeling like that. But also, he just gets to be, like, 100% dad.
It's important.
Not that you don't help or anything like that at home, because you for sure 100% do, but it is different when you're the only one there.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. We had our first day like that, or night, I should say, this week too. So,
Which is always so much easier for mom. I mean, it's like almost an instant fix. For us, we have to work a lot harder with it, with the kids, and that's natural. It's just how, God made it, but that's why it's good when there is that dependence and you have to step up and...
But now, anyways, I feel like I'm at a point with my business that I work so part-time that, contrary to how it was when I first started and I just took anybody, now it's like I can be as picky as I want. And it's the best because it's so fun. Like, I do their nails and they're there in my chair because I want them to be, and because I love their guts, and because and Lauren's one of my favorite people ever. She is. She always will be. And it's just like, they care about me. I care about them. I want to hear everything. I want to know their struggles. I want to know what's going awesome. I want to know. And I really do remember it all. And I try to really make sure people know I care. And I feel like, I don't know. I love. Thanks, Lauren. I just love it. It's awesome.
No, I've
That
loved.
was a really long way to answer your question.
No, I've loved watching it. Right, like obviously, our families are kind of intertwined now, right? And I will say this before I go on. Just like Kallan drove you into the hood to live there, you too have driven me to some dangerous places.
Oh no!
In Costa Rica, Maddie.
Up the hills, that little car.
Hold on, back up. Maddie almost took us all the way to Nicaragua because she put it in the wrong directions. We drove a couple hours the wrong way in Costa Rica, and we had to backtrack.
Finally, Ben Smith. I asked Ben Smith. I said, Ben Smith, is this right? And he
Don't
said,
pass off the plane.
He said, yeah, Maddie, that looks great. I'm like, all right, here we go. That was actually such a good memory, but
It was.
that car was like, some of those hills like were scary.
Yeah, and it was late.
It was late. It was rainy.
It was rainy.
But I feel like our families are intertwined now, right? Me and Kallan, we went to high school together, and now we're both married and have kids, and now we're working together, which is a little bit nerve-wracking when it's with someone that you love so much, right? And so we're just, I speak for Lauren too. We're just grateful that we have such great friends to do business with, and it's been a lot of fun. I would ask you, you ladies, maybe if you could give advice to someone who, I guess I'll ask Lauren first. If you could give advice to someone who's married to an entrepreneur, or maybe dating an entrepreneur, not sure how it's going to be to get married to them, like, what would you say to them? And how would you advise both the man and the woman?
Well, I guess my advice would just be, in all things, communication, right? Like, and I would say scheduling, right? Like, thank goodness Ben, I will say, is an amazing scheduler. And so he's very busy and has a lot of appointments, but he schedules and he makes time for first the things that are most important. And so being, married to someone who is busy and has appointments like that, it's refreshing and super important that, I feel like a priority still, which is great. And
you are.
Thank you. Yes. And you do. You make me feel like a priority. And that's, I think, very, very important in having a good at-home family work balance. So.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I'm very disorganized when it comes to everything, like my car, my house,
Your laundry.
That's no
We're
secret.
Working on it.
But I'm organized when it comes to my planning. Like my planner is very organized because that's what it's going to take to, make it work to have a good work-life balance. So whenever we plan, I mean, she knows that if she gives me enough lead time, I can carve out whatever she needs, and so I feel like you've been just awesome, and it's fun to run a business alongside you in your business and parent with you. It's been a blast.
I would also add just flexibility, like, just between both people. I feel like we're both pretty flexible people and kind of willing to roll with the punches. I don't feel like I get riled up, I guess you could say.
It's true.
There's not a lot that super bothers me. I'm not
You don't sweat the small stuff.
Right. And I think that's just really big, like you kind of always say this, but pick your battles. And it's like, how big of a deal is this? And yeah, you just kind of having a good positive mindset about it. So.
It's good. If I could give you the takeaway from that for him, you're saying be a good scheduler, prioritize your spouse, make them feel like they still are important, even in the crazy busyness.
For sure.
And then for her, be willing to be flexible, being willing to adapt to the changes and the craziness that can come.
Right. Always, there's always last minute changes. Even when we were dating, Ben would have trucks break down and he'd be like, can you drive me to this truck? It's like, yeah, 12 o'clock at night. Let's go.
Hey, you want it? You got it.
So, yeah, just...
Don't act like your trucks haven't ever broken down.
It's your truck.
Okay, let's put it like this. Who's rescued whose truck more?
Oh,
here we go.
Oh.
The one pink pickup? Just kidding.
You're lucky I have mom brain.
I love you. And I did want to make sure that we talked about this a little bit, Kallan, because we got some listener feedback that they kind of wanted an update on Big Storage Ventures, and kind of just it's something that we've decided to team up on. If you could fill in the audience since we started this podcast kind of to where we are now, and some of the things we've learned in the last few months too.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot. It's incredible the knowledge and information that's out there and the people that are willing to share it. I'm so grateful for everybody that's come on the podcast and that's scheduled to come on in the future and be willing to share what they've learned and their experiences, their knowledge. And it's hard not to be impacted by that when you're sitting in a room with them, or, if we're on a call and I'm going back to Breck again. He pointed that out, mid conversation, just being present with someone and be able to have that much focus on a conversation and to be able to do that. And it's had a big impact on me. I mean, Maddie could probably attest to a little bit of that. I mean, I'll come home and I'll just be like, oh man, like just feeling really inspired, really amped. And sometimes like there's a lot I need to work on and improve. And so throughout this journey, there's been a lot of things that have stuck out to me, and it's pursuing this kind of like a passion, being able to do those things to get the life, have the lifestyle you want. And I never thought it would be this way. I mean, I wanted to talk to these
It
people.
wasn't the plan.
Right.
Just to clarify.
It was not the plan. I mean, Ben told me to quit and start a business, and I didn't quit and start a business. We did start a business. We started the phototherapy business, and it's a labor of love, and then like the accounting business that I have that I'm working on. But anyways, we didn't plan on this being, kind of the result of the podcast, but Ben and I, we've been talking a lot, and he's been working on storage units and stuff, and he brought up a proposal for a partnership for me, and something that I mentioned earlier that works with being able to mitigate the risk for me. So, and a little bit to my personality, and being able to have a good partnership agreement that fits kind of both, our situations. And so, no, it's great. And so Ben and I we're going to be partnering up for Big Storage Ventures, and we're going to be hunting, finding the best storage deals out there, and trying to give the opportunity for investors to come in. I mean, it's the best time in 5 years to get into self-storage. There's incredible deals out there. I mean, incredible stuff you guys wouldn't even believe. And so I'm grateful to be a part of it. And a lot of this, it's driven that, and it's not been easy. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, being kind of stepping away from what my life has been the last 5 years in accounting and in the accounting profession. I'm a CMA, working on my CPA, and kind of just like, all right, I'm going to walk away from that. And
you're on a track.
Yeah.
And now the track has nothing to do with anything.
Right.
Well, it's correlated, but it's not perfectly aligned with the track you were on.
Yeah.
And you've been working on for the last decade,
Well, yeah, for a long time, for sure. And there's still so many things, but when it really came down to it, it came down to growth. And you mentioned that earlier, and being in that growth mindset, and just being able to be in that constant state of discomfort. It is uncomfortable. It's extremely uncomfortable when you're switching anything to leave, a group of people, a company that you love, and incredible opportunities that I had there. I mean, it's not easy. I can't say that it is. I can't say that it's the right thing for everyone to do. Sometimes it's not. But
it's like such a leap.
It is a huge leap. It's still a huge leap, because yeah.
What was your guys' conversation like together?
I feel like when we were really, really, really thinking about it, we went up to the mountain to Kallan's parents' cabin, and we just took the kids and the razor, and we're like, let's go on a ride, and let's just we're not going back to the cabin until we know what we're doing.
Were the kids with you in the razor?
Yeah, we brought them with, and they both fell asleep. So
Nice.
The humming of the razor is like the best thing. Boston loves it. Loves it. Always wants to go to Papa's cabin on the razor. And so I'm like, we're going on a ride, and we're not coming back till we know what we're doing. And I felt like we were driving, we were talking, and I just felt like both in our hearts and our deep down, I just felt like I was just like, I feel like we're just supposed to do this. Like, I just feel like we're supposed to do it. And Kallan's job that he was at had an amazing counter offer. So I felt like it was like, okay, well, we could do that, or we could, go with Ben. And I was just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be great. I feel like this is what we need to do. And then I feel like when it was kind of coming up a little more, and I was like, did I think about any potential consequences of this? Like, I have two
We're
kids.
trusting Ben.
I'm like, wait, but then at the same time, because I'm like, we have kids, and it's always just like, you have those like pivotal moments in your life where it's fun to look back and be like, wow, I was like at that pivotal moment, and I made that choice, and it brought me this path, and like, wow, like how awesome it's been, I'm
Where
so glad.
Where are you driving me?
Yeah.
It's funner to look back in the rear view.
Yeah. So I'm like, we're at this pivotal moment that I know is a pivotal moment, and am I going to look forward in 5 years and be like, that was a pivotal moment that like wasn't just bad. Like we made the wrong choice or whatever. And I'm just like, then I really do think about you, and I know you as a person, and I feel like I know I've known you for almost 6 years now, since Kallan and I have been married, and I just know how awesome of a guy you are, so genuine, and I was just like, for anybody else in a different situation where it's like, I don't know, maybe just like a different company or something, or they don't really know him, and it's way more of a risk, but I'm just like, no, I just feel like this is what we're supposed to do, and it's going to be awesome, and super excited.
Yeah.
Well, we tell investors it's about the horse, not the jockey. It's more about storage units than it is about me, and I think that's something that is a good thing you can bet your family's livelihood on. But I am so grateful that you guys are working with us, and I'm so grateful that we kind of took a long time to work together. Really, like it's been a lot of like brainstorming and throwing it out there. We throw it out there every year, and now it's like, okay, it was the right time to pull the trigger, right? So it's been a lot of fun.
I was listening to something as things really heavy on my mind, with everything and making a decision. You wonder whether it's the right thing. And sometimes you just get like little assurances along the way. And one of them, came at the right time. I was listening to Bridger Pennington's podcast, and he had a guy that came on that kind of talked about something very similar, getting into real estate, building in a real estate investment company, and just his experience with that. And it was kind of that same thing. He's like, you just have to go for it, and you got to go 100%, because sometimes you can do things part-time, and they were just saying like, if you're going to go do this, you need to go 100%. But another thing, Bridger was saying is we really don't have as heavy of a risk as we think. There's safety nets all along the way, with the government, and he's like, really, what's the worst that could happen? Like if everything crashed and you lost everything, what's the worst that could really happen to you? He's like, do you have any family? Like you could stay at their house or in their garage. Yeah. I mean, we actually live in an amazing country. We're so blessed to be here, and there's so many safety nets along the way, and we have such a great support here in our communities and with our families. And so, it's risks are high, but when you look at like a bigger perspective, this is just what Bridger was saying. It's like it's really not that bad. So
yeah,
I mean, who cares if I could get a 10. There's 10 cities in California right now. We could go get
Yeah, we'll just move our family into.
I'm just kidding.
It will be the second time you moved her in the hood.
I'm just kidding.
Oh man. Well, I'm really glad. I know that you guys had to make sacrifices to get care for the kids, and we did. There was some apprehension about coming on our goofy podcast, but I feel like everyone got a lot of value from your stories, and obviously admire you, Maddie and Lauren.
Thanks,
I wouldn't be anywhere without you. Seriously, like you and your support and your love and just being very balancing to me, it means everything. And so, I want everyone listening to realize that every Thursday night when we do, or not necessarily Thursday, but every time we do this podcast, there's my better half having my back, taking care of everything back at home, who is really a big part of everything that Beyond Network stands for. So thank you guys for being on. Before we sign off, I want you guys maybe to tell one thing that maybe a principle or a life lesson that really stands out to you that you feel like could impact anyone in their business, just in their life, that stands out as something that you kind of hang your hat on or you live by.
I don't know. I feel like just doing honest work and being an honest person and not trying to, I don't know, like swindle people or like give off different vibes. Like just be you, be genuine. Try to be the best at your craft. I still feel like I wouldn't say I'm the best. I don't know. I feel like wherever you're at, you always are looking at other people being like they're the best. But I don't ever look at that as like I look at that as I could learn from them. I could grow from them. They have something they could teach me versus like, we're pegged against each other and, they're better and I'm not or something weird like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like just be yourself. Be confident in who you are. Don't be afraid to believe in yourself. Sounds cheesy, but I feel like having that mindset too, the growth mindset, feeling is a good thing.
Absolutely.
You just take the results and try to do better the next day and 1% better every day, right, babe? That's what he tells me.
There you go.
1% better every day.
I totally agree. I would probably say never stop chasing your dreams. If you have that dream of something you want to do or something you want to be something, working towards something personal, keep dreaming it and keep working towards making it happen. I would also say don't be afraid of no. Don't be afraid of being told no, because when you start something or you're wanting to start something, people really aren't gonna believe in you unless you believe in yourself, and you're gonna be told no a lot of times. And I was told no many, many times, and I just realizing that for how many times you get told no, like somebody's going to say yes eventually. And you just have to keep that light at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, I love what Maddie said, just being honest, being a good person, and being passionate. I think when you have passion for something, no matter what it is, it's going to drive people to that. It's like its own marketing tool almost. It's if you're passionate about something, people feel that passion and they want to be a part of it. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Aren't we so lucky, dude?
We are lucky. And I'll come in a second. You said it first, but I'm really lucky to have Maddie in my life and everything that she's done. I mean, it goes without saying, but she's done so much for me and the family to be where we are today. So thanks, you.
Babe.
You guys are everything Beyond Net Worth is all about. So thanks for coming on. And that's another awesome episode of Beyond Net Worth podcast.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks for having us.